activities here in India and doing other engineering services. I don't want to speak too much for myself, because I just saw the other day a rehearsal of a great classical conductor, and he said, I'm here to enjoy, you have to play. And that is true also for my panelists here. I'm here to enjoy, you guys have to contribute. So let me start with a warm-up, and if you want a question, and I want you to quickly introduce yourself in one sentence and make one statement to the question. The question is, what is, your feeling, the biggest security gap right now in the OT automotive industry? Let me start with you, sir.
Hi, I'm Nagesh. I'm the co-founder of a company called Drivewise, who is doing consultancy in functional safety and cybersecurity. The biggest challenge is the awareness itself. Right? So people have to realize that the systems have become connected, and so what was originally an industry that was sitting, outside the city or somewhere is no longer sitting outside, but it is very connected with everything. And with Industry 4.0, it becomes very easy to be hacked. So that's the challenge that I'm seeing.
I'm Ranjini, working as a technology group leader with Royal Enfield. So one of the major challenges that we face as you mentioned, first thing is the awareness, and next is, it is like an unknown devil. We don't know what we are signing up for. It's something new for all of us, and I think it's not just restricted to the IT systems, but also to the critical infrastructure, which we will be discussing today. And I think it's a learning for the whole world, and especially for the automotive industry.
My name is Sonia Anthony. I'm a partner with KPMG. I've been with KPMG for about 21 years. I worked with multiplexers, modems, and now with AI models. So that's how the journey has been. Since I have closed up on AI, I think the biggest challenge I foresee in OT is patch management. And the reason for this is because right now with Microsoft and cloud, right, where the entire IT enterprise is probably squirming in their seats because they don't know when the next model is going to be out, right? And with the number of vulnerabilities that have come out, at least on the IT side, we have still not scratched the surface on the OT side. Once the OT models come in and they understand microcode, they understand logic controllers, we are going to have a big issue at our hand. Right? And patching some of the OT systems is a task by itself, not like the enterprise IT. Right? So that's where I see the challenge coming.
How these two worlds exist right now in the automotive industry, and how do we bridge them? Maybe you, Sony, person to start.
Sure. So in my consulting experience, I worked across various types of industries, from pharma to manufacturing, oil and gas, automotive, right? And everywhere there's OT aspects now. Now, if I look back, right, IT has been quite mature for the last 20-25 years. People have had basic security policies, people have had a lot of maturity assessments, a lot of dedicated people have been there for IT. OT is pretty fairly new, right? And I have seen clients come back and say, okay, I need to have a OT SOC and an IT SOC integrated. That is not going to work because the maturity level of IT is here and OT is just picking up, right? You cannot have the same SLAs suddenly pushed down for managing some of these environments. Having said that, there are many other things which change. For example, basically patch management, right? In IT, it is an everyday event, right? In OT, it is challenge to your production environment. The basic security he knows is there's a sticky note there which says 1, 2, 3, 4 on the PLC to reset the PLC. That's because availability is the biggest priority on the OT side, and here you have confidentiality and integrity. So there are many things. It's just not the role of an individual, it's just not a process, it's the technology as well, right? So these are the very differentiating challenges that are there in OT and the IT environment, and therefore it will take some time for us to really get a good grip on, let's say, bringing these challenges together and addressing as one.
How you balance between data security or the security issue and downtime? In the software, it's not a problem, you just shut it down and reboot it. In OT you can do that, or you can do that, but it comes with a huge cost. So how do we balance downtime versus security?
The auto sector is just picking up on this. So maybe just to take a couple of steps back and also interconnecting SDV topic. So we do see that in the current pass cars or the two-wheelers also per se, it is all predominantly software driven. So with the explosion of software, there are also other challenges which has come in. As Mr. Tony was saying, we do have a lot of patches of the software also coming in. So what is typically there in our EOL machine, end of line machine, to have a certain software to be flashed? It is different patches which can come almost one per day for each of the ECUs. So that's the level of complexity that we will be dealing with. How safe is the software code that is actually coming in? So that is one challenge to be there. So it will, as an OEM, if you look at it, it will be not just adhering to the safe IT standards or the security standards from the OEM side, but also from the tier ones, from all the software partners and all of that. So this is from the IT side. But when I come to the OT of the balancing the downtime, first is to create the awareness and then train the people to actually be able to understand that a software issue can cause these things, and how do you train them and create a process for that, because production systems go by process, so it is not many times driven by thought. So it is going to take some time to actually streamline that, and I would say we are at OEMs maybe would be at a scale of 10, we would say 2 or 3 only. So we would need, it's a long way ahead to balance both of them. So it needs more intelligent SCADA systems. So the current SCADA systems would need to be upgraded to have scalability and also traceability with respect to each of the batch of the software. And the complexity of different ECUs, different software patches, and how are you going to handle OTA and FOTA over the air flashing. So there are a lot of so whatever you do in a typical software management in IT, which is already mature, the similar lessons learned might need to be taken, and then it needs to be tailor-made for the manufacturing system. So I think we have a long way for that as an industry.
The connectivity across the supply chain. Right now we only talked within our own organization what we can do. But what happens if a tier 1 or tier 2 supplier is attacked? How do we as an OEM, what resilience do we build for to make sure that our, not only the attack, but our production runs safely? What are the thought processes right now in the industry regarding along these lines?
Currently, what is happening, at least in the European Union, is that there is something called the Cyber Resilience Act that has come into play, and starting from September 26, which is like a couple of months away, every embedded project, so anything that has a digital element, they have to disclose what are the vulnerabilities that are there, right? That is one thing. And then from December 2027, they should be cyber resilient compliant. So what this means is that, like you rightly pointed out, every supplier of even the smallest part, the smallest component of an industrial machine will have to ensure that they are cybersecurity compliant. And so unless this happens, they become the weakest link in the chain, right? So I'll take the entire production line was shut. 1.9 billion, I'm not talking about million, 1.9 billion pounds were lost because their machines were offline for a month. And what was the root cause? The root cause is not a sophisticated state-of-the-art attack from a state player or a nation player. It was a very simple attack on one of their suppliers, and it was done using social engineering. Somebody called up somebody in one of the third parties of JLR and told them that they are calling from the IT, they need their password. The team members gave them the password, which gave them the entry, the key to the entire IT system, the entire JLR system. And then from the IT system, given that it is a connected world where IT and OT, they started operating together, they were able to literally jump into the OT system and they shut down the entire chain, right? So this is, and given AI, what is going to happen is that as much as we want, AI is also going to be used for nefarious purposes. People are going to, clone your voice, they are going to clone your patterns, and then they are going to use it to get into your systems. So that is where the Cyber Resilience Act, at least in the Europe, it is going to help all the suppliers be cyber resilient. So that is the step that I am seeing. I'm sure that the other countries will soon follow suit. That's my expectation.
Thank you very much. Very elaborate and we appreciate that. If we group attacks, we can group them more or less in four categories. One is state attacks, and the state sponsors any cyber attacks. Then you have, which goes along the line, terrorist attacks, which is not as sophisticated, but they don't have that much resources like a state. And then you have competition that they want to harm you, which I also don't think is that much of a big threat, because I don't see Mahindra attacking Tata in order to delay a rollout of product. And then the fourth one, and I think that must be the major one, is for simple criminal reasons to get money out of it. Is this the same aspect of you, and what is your biggest threat against which you want to make your company resilient? Maybe I get back to you first, and then
comes back to the point of creating clear process for us, having the learning from whatever IT has gone through. Start with data points should be clear.
Assuming we are having a fort, so we are having, let's say, a castle, and we want to protect it. There are three boundaries to it. First boundary is the law, right? So from a security perspective, in Europe at least, we have the UN regulation 155, 156. 155 is you need to have cyber security engineering in your organization. It means cyber security by design. And 156 is related to how you update the software. Now that's the law there. Similar mapping of law is in India, which is AS 189, 190, right? So that is the first boundary, the law. The law is there. Now how do you implement that law? You need to have a standard. The standard that we typically use across all organizations, whether it is pharma, manufacturing, wherever it is in OT environments, is 62443. Right? Now 62443 has specific kind of SLTs, which is, let's say, service level targets, or let's say technical aspects, right? Level 1 basically is you have someone unintentionally who's made some mistake on the network. So what are the controls you need to have in place? Level 2, there is some kind of a virus or some intention that is coming, right? And so there could be, let's say, phishing, or let's say someone is scam. What are the kind of controls to protect? Do I put a firewall? Do I put a DLP? Do I put various kind of systems? Level 3 is ransomware, which is common, and for all you know, your PLCs have got ransomed, right? So then, what are the kind of controls you need to put? And level 4 is advanced persistence in the network, which means you have a continuous connection network. Now, this is the second, let's say, layer, which provides you these 4 levels of controls. The third layer, if it is sectorial specific, for example, automotive sector, so then I will apply for my sector something called a 21434, right, which is specific to my sector, and that again has, let's say, a set of requirements. And what are the requirements there? It doesn't consider something very, very specific like a risk assessment and things like that. It looks like suppliers, like what Marcus brought out. It looks at, let's say, product vendors, maintainers, asset owners, literally the entire ecosystem, and talks about security there, because now the onus of security is not on the third-party supplier who was, let's say, whose credentials were lost, but it is a car maker. The manufacturer is actually onus of security, and therefore these 3 layers have to be structured when you set up security. One is the law, second is for the entire OT environment, what type of security you have. Third is for your specific sector, what is the kind of framework or standard you have adhere to that, right? So keeping these 3 in mind, you will be able to address security, its resilience, response, and you know how to recover it as well.
Since we are talking a lot about suppliers also, I would like to put one point about data security and OT control. The automotive industry is highly relying on IT protection also. Now, the moment I share data with my suppliers, I have to share a lot of inside data also. No? And let's assume you're a machine manufacturer let's say with Tata. If I sell the machine to Tata and I get the data to make predictive maintenance, I see also how they use it. So if tomorrow Mahindra comes and asks for a similar machine, I know things how it's used here, which I wouldn't have known if I wouldn't have the data. How do we make sure that we don't give away with data which we need and which we want because of predictive maintenance, but we don't give away a competitive advantage to our competitors? Maybe I start again with you, Rakesh.
A very tough question because the moment we surrender data to someone, we also are surrendering some part of the IP to there, right? So maybe the immediate solution that I could think of is the NDAs, the non-disclosure agreements that we will have to have with all those suppliers. But again, they are not the best way, so I don't know, maybe some kind of an encryption of the data. I'm just thinking about it, but yeah, these are the quick thoughts that I have.
Which is there not just for this problem, but also for all the data that we have between the suppliers and the OEMs. Apart from the NDAs, there are also clear technology partnerships which are put in the sense, you say that this part of IP is owned specifically only by them, and you encrypt. So encrypt part of the data and then only provide the data, which is more of a black box or a grey box kind of thing that can be done. And the first one will, of course, as you mentioned, we will need to evolve with the second or the third one. But watertight IP is needed with a grey box kind of implementation in the software, so that you know what you can actually expose to the suppliers or the partners that you are going to work with.
If you look at data security, right, and you go through the evolution of that data within the organization, it starts from some point A, and then at point A, let's say either deletes or you, let's say, close the data itself, right? Now, if you look at that entire life cycle and map it to, let's say, an OT environment or an automotive environment, right? Data security has to be looked at every layer of the Purdue model, right? Where you have L1, where you have, let's say, your PLC, sensors, actuators, drives, those kind of aspects. And what are the kind of signals that are flowing there? How do you protect that signals? People can compromise it by having heat, EMI, or physical threats, right? The next layer, which is probably, let's say, the PLC's layer, and we'll say that in other layers, right? At every layer, you need to have some level of security. Because if I come back to, let's say, an enterprise system or an IT environment and ask what is the most critical system that is here that can be compromised, people 90% come back and say that my database, right? Because my database has records, it has customer information, it probably has, let's say, some process design data and various other things, right? And basically records. Similar translation, if I go to the OT environment, it is your data history, right? In your historians and things like that. Now that has PLC information, process information, a lot of data customized to your organization, right? I can have an AI-based attack tomorrow which will compromise the network and extract data from the historic and then ransomware it. And we do this for a living in KPMG. I also do a lot of forensic for quite a few organizations. Imagine a situation tomorrow where you have an AI-based attack who is not necessarily compromising the data or deleting the data, but degrading the quality of work in the OT environment, right? I might have, let's say, a small piece of code which has come in there on your vision system. It is creating a quality index of not necessarily identifying some products to that degree that it was doing. Just create a small issue there. Now what happens in this situation is I am not necessarily destabilizing the organization. They believe it's working fine. But by way of, let's say, this manipulation of an MES or a vision system, right, I can actually compromise the quality of, let's say, output that is coming out. And that is more important for organizations of today, especially in automotive security. So when you say data security, right, yes, data has to be looked into from generation to transmission to, let's say, even communication. All angles of data security across the Purdue model. So that's my thought process.
Thank you very much. Is there any human resource skilling aspect to that as well? I would assume it is so. And what are you guys doing to create awareness, to train people, to skill people that especially in the OT environment, that life has changed and it's not as innocent as it used to be to manufacture?
I think we are, from the OEMs, we are definitely taking baby steps now. First to create an awareness, and then create an awareness about how fragile a cybersecurity threat can actually dismantle the whole production system itself, or at least sabotage. So that is currently going on, and slowly the SCADA systems and also the manufacturing systems are getting smarter. And it is still a long way to go, but baby steps have been taken. And what has been done to start with is to teach them what a certain, as you mentioned, a fall, what are known as you dial a fault in the system. So you basically dial a threat or a cause it to factor that, and then show them how it can actually cause the damage. So that is the demonstration level is currently going on in the OEMs. And slowly we will be able to get into the, as he mentioned, processes across the different levels of security at different layers must happen, and it must be integrated along with the IT systems, and then I think we should be able to crack it in some time.
How will AI and ML, not only, we hear again about how it will streamline the manufacturing process, but what are the risks involved with all that? Maybe you want to on that first. The AI impact on manufacturing, and how will it have an additional layer of complexity in designing my OT security systems?
I don't really see any standard, ISO level standard, IEC level standard for how to regulate these kind of AI security things. And so I think what will have to happen is we need to really be proactive in monitoring what kind of threats can come in through these things, and then take actions, and then eventually bring us all up into a standard. Right? At this point, we are all learning, like what Anthony kept repeating. I guess we are really taking baby steps. We really don't know what kind of threat can happen through the AI, how it could be used. So we will have to be really proactive in terms of monitoring these kind of things, and then take appropriate action. At this point, if you ask me what can be done, I really don't have a straightforward answer. It's what I think it's so.
Any technology, any process, any role, right? There are three sides to it. One is functionality, performance, and security, or what we call security privacy. Right? And you are in the center. The more you work towards functionality, you will lose out on the performance of the system and security, which means the more features you add, performance is lost, security is lost. The more you go to performance, the functionality will not be available because they can't really work around, and security is lost. And the more you move towards security, you will not give benefit of functionality or performance to anyone, right? Now this is how typically any technology, process or system, and therefore you have to be centered. I cannot go and apply 100 controls on my business. They will come back and say, I can't run the business with these kind of controls, right? That's what I'm trying to come back to. Second part, from a standards and frameworks perspective, globally there are some standards now, like NIST RMF, EU cybersecurity, including India was come up with a cybersecurity policy, right, for critical infrastructure, or NCPDIC and various other things, right? NIST frameworks have come out for tackling AI in cybersecurity. Okay, now go back third layer. What I spoke about the triangle was when human beings were involved in functionality, process and security. Tomorrow, to address Marcus's point, AI will do functionality and let's say performance. They will also do the security part of it, be it offense or defense. Right? So we are going to see this gradually moving into whatever processes that we take. And they are frameworks, right? Pretty standard frameworks that we actually help in. In fact, I do for the Bangalore airport, the entire OT security. In fact, I created an AI engine for integration of IT, OT and various services. Now, while we have designed that entire AI engine, the client came back to me and said, what if it goes rogue tomorrow? So now I have to create guardrails and safeguards in such a way that I have a second AI which is constantly checking the first AI by way of KPIs. which means even before the AI has been designed, I have designed KPIs of security thresholds that this AI has to meet, and if it is having a drift from that, my second AI will actually raise a finger. So it's a judge LLM that we are actually running on two different frontier models. So point I'm trying to make here is you will have AI which will start doing these processes, you will have AI who will do offensive and defensive, and you will have AI who will tell the other AI also what is right and what is wrong. Hopefully that's going to be a safer world.
When we talk about frameworks, and we talked about it now the last couple of minutes, is there any wish or any idea or any suggestions, I'm not saying for the politicians, but for the ecosystem as such? Do we need an additional body? Do we need to have, because what I hear that OEMs are all struggling, should they form a round table regularly on these things? Is there anything missing, or is this already everything in place, or is there anything on your wish list which you say, if that would happen, that would definitely help us all to speed up this process in the automotive industry? Maybe you start everything and then...
Coming to the product, I think on a vehicle or a product, the cybersecurity mandates are pretty clear, and be it OEMs or the supplier partners are well aware of it, and then we are taking steps and it's there. When it comes to the infrastructure, I think there's a lot to take the learnings from the space, defense, and also the airline sector, where a single damage can create a larger class outage. So maybe a framework, taking the already existing framework and make it well suited for the auto sector would be the best way to go forward, I think.
I've seen organizations adopt frameworks, right? 99% they do it just for a certificate. It is not with an intent. It is more from a marketing perspective, or there's an RFP in the US that requires them to have a specific certificate, right? So that's how people go for certifications. But even in India, for example, when our privacy law came in, right, before it came into law, it was called PDPP. And it was basically a rip-off of whatever GDPR was on the EU. Having said that, when it came into law as well, it didn't really work as much until they added penalties into it, right? Like how, for example, URN 155, 156 has penalties for automakers, which means it gets somewhere rolled down to, let's say, even the OEMs or suppliers, right? And that goes at a percentage of the revenue of the organization per that year. So that's the kind of penalties that are after. Why DPDPA is working in India today? Because penalties are associated there as well, right? You have 250 crore penalty if you have, let's say, a violation. Now, has the government done anything about it? They have not. They are looking for a sample or an example case. Once they find that, then everyone will fall in line. Right now, they are not really stuck to it because they are trying to get their act right. Because you can go back to the government and say, the data that you have, Aadhaar, passport, is all available. So they are digitizing that. You see PAN card 2.0 coming, which will not have a PAN card. Aadhaar next generation is coming, which will not have a Aadhaar number, right? You will also have passports which are now becoming electronic. You will not have passport number. So they are getting their act right first, such that you will not point a finger to them when they come after you, right? And it is going to happen in due course. You will start seeing penalties coming in at from various bodies, and that's when things will move faster. Awareness we have to do. Frameworks will come and guide us, but things will move faster only when we have something very, very tangible or the stick that is available to make things move forward.
If you have a vulnerability that you have not disclosed, the penalty is $5 million or 2.5% of your revenue. So I think EOCRA, I think they learned their lesson. If you just pass saying that, okay, everyone has to follow, I don't think people will do that. So they have already brought in that penalty clause into that.
So if there is one misconception about OT security, which is the one which you really would like to retire, hopefully by the end of the day? So you first.
Okay. Misconception on OT. Probably people will say it doesn't affect my industry. It is like, I'm a safe driver. Accidents happen for other people, not for me because I'm a safe driver. So people probably think with OT, I know that their OT system is not
probably secure, but mine is.
Yeah,
I think that's the
Sure.
biggest difference.
And also, especially if you're a smaller supplier, you might think, I mean, I'm too small that anybody would bother to attack me.
So I come from a cybersecurity background. I've been an ethical hacker for the last 20 years, 30 years types, right? And I never did software engineering at that point in time. I have not done software engineering as well. I was more into electronics and various other things. But today I hire a lot of people, right? And when I hire them, they have the notion that they have to be, let's say, software engineering experts to be part of cybersecurity. But I say no, as long as you have that intent of getting in and getting out, and you have tools to support you, you can probably address cybersecurity. Now, bringing parallels to OT, right? People again think OT is a very, very technical subject. Yes, it is. But there are many dynamics of cybersecurity that you can apply, from risk frameworks to TARA kind of assessments to, let's say, supplier chain risk assessments, third-party risk assessments, various standards frameworks, and then yes, communication, firmware, protocol analysis, which are little technical as well, right? So the thing is, OT landscape is huge. It is not any wrong time or right time to get into it. If there are kids out there and they want to get into OT security, please push them towards it. This is the area which is going to grow in the next 5 years, right? Cyber security, don't push them into, which is enterprise side. AI is anyway taking care of it. I think OT is something which AI will have to manage for a long period of time, just because of kind of unique devices, legacy devices, kind of connectivity that is out there, which will take some time at least, right? So that's something which I would like to do from an awareness perspective.
Thank you very much. So do we still have time for some questions for the audience? Then I would like to open the...
If it is for a greenfield project, OT network setting up will be a better planned way. But what if current ongoing fully productionized factories are ramping up?
So what happens is, because something is 15 to 25 years, it's never a greenfield. It is always, let's say, add-ons that are coming into that environment. Now, because add-ons are coming in constantly for the last 25 years and with the latest technologies, right, you have this integration challenges of, let's say, legacy systems with constantly growing, let's say, new technology. And while legacy systems have microcode issues or code issues or logic issues or ladder logic issues, newer systems have channels through which you can come in, which means you have, let's say, PLC networks, or you have, let's say, NFC networks, you have 5G connectivity, somewhere there is a forgotten VPN connection for some kind of a vendor, right? And all these things are conduits that you can come in. So I see new technology are actually becoming conduits, number one, because they are not having too much time in testing the security aspect. Older products have not been tested on security, but they are vulnerable from their inherent operating system itself. So in a brownfield kind of an environment where you have legacy kind of systems, you have to try to see how you can kind of control your perimeter. Make sure you have adequate data diodes, make sure you have, let's say, good air gap systems or firewall control or just-in-time configurations, multi-factor authentications. All these things you can probably put into safeguard that environment. Very, very few places they start off with a greenfield and put security completely from a design perspective, which is a good thing to do, but challenging environment right now.
Before connecting, what are the key parameters needs to be ensured? For example, like a factory environment can be it can be a hot climate thing, casting shop and or something. So things which are needs to be connected, how the hardwares and the softwares, uplinking point and downlinking point. So what are the risk assessment needs to be done in a factory environment?
Sorry, you're saying risk assessments for things which are
Physically needs to be present as in hardware to interact with your software.
See, if you look at it, traditionally OT was never connected to IT. Just because somewhere in the marketing department or sales department wanted to have a prediction of what is my quarter number going to be 3 quarters down the line, they connected it to the ERP system and ERP system to analytics system back to enterprise system, that connected back to the OT system, so that they can get the entire data of, let's say, the inventory and the process and various other things. Now, why all these connections are going on, right? The aspect is at every layer you need to put either good amount of, let's say, traffic management or traffic control, which is one-way traffic, right? You don't have, let's say, a database from an enterprise IT talking to, let's say, reverse to the histogram, but the other way can actually go through. So those are some aspects. Second is user access control. Third is just-in-time access. Fourth is multi-factor authentication. These are some things that you have to put into control the flow of, let's say, internal and external connectivity. I hope I've answered your question.
The threat assessment is always a live thing. It is not a one-time thing. Okay, I'm done. I've installed my system. I'm done. Now everything is. You live in a fairyland. No, it doesn't happen that way. So any small change, again, it need not be within your environment, right? Right now, with AI, the previous threat analysis would have taken some aspect of what would be the skill level required for a hacker to get it. But with AI, those things will have to be revisited. So the threat analysis that you have to do is always a live thing. So you need to keep monitoring not just your internal system, but what is happening in the external world, by which your risk becomes magnified, right? So it is not, I set it up, I'm done. It never works that way.